Most of you are probably familiar with the infamous creepypasta, The Day I Hired a Hitman on Myself, a twisted story about a man who paid to have himself hunted, turning his own death into the ultimate game of survival. But tonight, we're not focusing on the client. We're diving into the other side of the story, the hitman's perspective. What was going through his mind? What did he see? What did he feel when he realized his target wasn't running away, but running straight into the fire? This is the full POV of Mike, the man sent to kill. And this is how the hunter became the hunted. Turn off the lights, grab your headphones, and let's begin. I don't remember my mother's face. Sometimes I wonder if that's what started it all, this hollow space in my mind where something warm should have lived. A face, a memory, a reason. But there's nothing, just static. The orphanage gave me a name, Michael. Mike to the few who ever bothered. They said I was strange, quiet, too observant. One of the caretakers whispered once that I gave her the creeps. I wasn't offended. I was watching her because she lied a lot. About lunch supplies, about which kids got in trouble, about how no one ever came for me. They never did. Other kids disappeared, hand in hand with smiling strangers. I stayed behind, invisible, unwanted, watching, listening, learning. When I turned 18, no one noticed. No party, no candlelit goodbyes, just a door that didn't lock behind me when I walked out into the night. One of the junior social workers, half drunk and half asleep, muttered, "Good luck, Mike," as I passed him in the hallway. He didn't even look up. I never looked back. The streets aren't kind, but they are honest. They teach you things quickly. How to disappear, how to sleep with one eye open, how to know when someone's about to hurt you or help you or both. People don't see the homeless. You become part of the landscape, a fixture, a forgotten shape in the corner of their eye, which is exactly how I survived. For a long time, I thought that would be it. Me, the ghost wandering the cracks between society's walls. But one night, beneath a flickering streetlight, two men in suits found me. They didn't ask my name. They already knew it. They asked a question. "You tired of being invisible?" And just like that, I wasn't. They trained me well, not in a classroom, not with chalkboards and lectures. No, I was sharpened like a blade, cut down to bone and rebuilt into something precise, something surgical. I learned how to tail a mark through 6 city blocks without being seen, how to watch their hands, their gait, the lies in their body language, how to blend into a crowd like a shadow on wet asphalt. I learned how to kill without hesitation, clean, silent, final, and for a while, that was enough. The job stacked up. Faces became contracts. Contracts became numbers. 56, 57, I stopped counting after 60. Each one disappeared like breath on glass. No mistakes, no questions. But there was a weight in the silence after each kill, a quiet echo that grew louder the more I ignored it. Then came the new assignment. My handler met me in the briefing room. No windows, no clocks, just steel and silence. "Vegas," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "Male, mid-30s, office drone, no family ties, minimal digital presence." I flipped through the file. Photo, DMV registration, apartment lease, credit history. A ghost, not unlike me, but louder, living in a cage and screaming to feel something. "This one might be armed," my handler continued. "No criminal record, but he's been buying gear. Spy cameras, voice changers, weapons, playing with fire." I paused on a purchase receipt for a Barrett M82. Heavy weapon, not standard civilian fare. "He knows someone's coming?" I asked without looking up. "Not sure, but something's off." I stared at the photo again. The man was smiling, not out of joy, out of defiance. I nodded slowly, closed the folder and stood. In the underground garage, I moved past rows of vehicles I'd used before, each one nondescript, disposable. But tonight was different. Something in my gut said I'd need more than just subtlety. I stopped in front of a car I hadn't touched in years. Black Chrysler 300, tinted windows, heavy chassis, reinforced plating, bullet-resistant glass. Registered to me under a shell identity built years ago, long before this job. Still clean, still valid. I ran a hand along the side, feeling the hum beneath the metal. It looked like something a mob accountant might drive. Forgettable. But if the job got messy, and my instincts told me it might, I needed something that could take a hit. I slid the key into the ignition, and the engine growled awake, low and confident. This was the one. I didn't know then that choosing this car would later give my target his first glimpse behind the curtain. That its license plate, filed under my alias, would end up in the hands of the very man I was sent to kill. But maybe that's why I chose it. Maybe I wanted to be seen. Vegas greeted me like it always did. Neon claws and broken promises. The city pulsed with desperation, but underneath all that glitter was something uglier. People came here to disappear or to become something they weren't. He was no exception. I arrived just before 10 p.m. and parked 3/4 of a mile from the address in the file. No contact, no entry, not yet. I didn't know what kind of trap I was walking into, so I followed instinct, disappear into routine. I pulled into a quiet residential side street near a cul-de-sac, slipped into the passenger seat, made myself look like I was waiting on someone. I stayed like that for hours, watching, waiting. Around 10:45 p.m., I did a slow recon lap of the target street, passed his complex once, then circled back. No lights on, no movement in the apartment. I didn't like it. The dossier said he lived alone, 3rd floor, apartment B307. Windows faced east. I parked across the street, partially hidden beneath a large sycamore. Let the car idle, eyes on the target's window. 10 minutes passed, nothing. Another 5, still nothing. Just as I reached to turn off the ignition, movement. Not in the apartment. In me. Something felt wrong. Too quiet, too still, like I was the one being watched. I scanned the street again. My gut was chewing on something bitter. And that's when I made the call. Not the phone kind, the instinctual kind. I turned the wheel and pulled away, slow and casual. Left the neighborhood. Didn't go far, just far enough to vanish. I slept in the car that night, just off a dead strip mall 2 exits north. When I woke, the sun had just started to bleed over the city. I scarfed down a gas station bagel and black coffee and waited. Then around noon, I got the ping. The organization had been watching his financials ever since the job was greenlit. Their analyst sent me a message. Client hasn't returned home, but he just bought 3 burner phones, 2 prepaid motel bookings, 1 under a dummy name, same timestamp, 2 locations. He was testing us. Trying to bait someone into showing their hand. Smart. It wasn't until later, much later, that I'd begin to suspect just how deep his plan went, but that came later. For now, I still thought he was just a mark. I drove slowly back toward his apartment complex, same one from the dossier, at around 4:30 p.m. Didn't approach directly. Instead, I parked 3/4 of a mile out again. Same street, same strategy. Passenger seat reclined, arms folded across my chest, baseball cap pulled low. Another day, another idle driver waiting on a friend. I wasn't sure if he was there, but something in the air felt heavier than yesterday. I sat for hours, the soft click of my bug scanner and my thoughts. I checked in with HQ twice. Both times, no activity from the apartment. Still silent. Sun dropped below the city skyline around 7:50 p.m. The buildings swallowed the last of the light and Vegas came alive. But not here. Not on this block. This street was still asleep. At 9:55 p.m., I put the phone down. No more distractions. Just eyes and instinct. I had an odd feeling that I was being watched. No, he was probably watching me. Not through blinds, through optics. Binoculars, most likely. Maybe even better. My heart rate didn't rise. I just smiled. The message from HQ came through. Encrypted, clean, delivered through a private mesh relay node bouncing off 3 satellites. Target confirmed. Multiple burner phones activated. 2 prepaid motel reservations, same timestamp. 1 card, 2 locations. Pattern suggests decoy play. Clever. Most marks don't think like this. Hell, most never even get the chance. They run, they hide, they die. But this guy, he was luring me. I sent a 1-word response, watching. Then I powered the burner off. I pulled the Chrysler into gear and slowly rolled down the street. No rush. Just another night. Just another cruise through a sleepy block. I drove past the complex without stopping. Let him see me. Let him wonder. The black Chrysler 300 looked out of place here. I knew that. The out-of-state plates didn't help, but that was fine. I parked 2 streets down, killed the engine, checked my gear, bump key, check. Tactical gloves, check. Glock 19 with suppressor, pre-threaded. Extra mag inside jacket pocket. Compact bug scanner, UV pen light. Mini fiber optic camera rig in case I needed to peek under doors. All the usual toys. I waited another 4 hours. Let him get bored. Let him convince himself I wasn't coming. At 3:58 a.m., I started the engine and circled back. No cars followed, no movement in the rear view. I rolled to a stop again, same exact spot as earlier, parked beneath a broken streetlight directly across from the complex, and I waited. 2 minutes. 3. Then I cut the engine. Lights off. Just silence. At 4:03 a.m., I stepped out of the vehicle. The desert night was cool, the wind pushing a low rattle through a nearby trash bin. The faint buzz of a neon beer sign flickered somewhere down the street. I walked with purpose, but not speed. Just another suited figure in a city where overdressed men show up in all kinds of places at all kinds of hours. The building was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't like it. I reached the 3rd floor without incident. Apartment B307. I slipped on my tactical gloves and retrieved the bump key from my coat. The lock was old, tarnished, slightly misaligned, evidence of prior forced entry? Maybe, or just neglect. Either way, it gave quickly. Click. I didn't push the door in right away. I pressed my ear to it first. Silence, not even the hum of a fridge. Still, I drew the Glock from inside my jacket and chambered around. Suppressor already attached. A whisper of a weapon, perfect for close quarters. Then slowly I opened the door. The apartment was still. Boxes in one corner, mattress on the floor, no sheets. A single coffee table dusty. But that wasn't what caught my eye. What caught my eye was the note, centered perfectly. Not tossed, not forgotten, placed. I approached, weapon still raised, cleared each corner as I did, left side clean, closet door ajar but empty, bathroom door shut, checked it quickly. Empty. Then I moved back toward the living room and read the note. Tag, you're it. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't even a warning. It was an invitation. This wasn't a man running for his life. This was a man orchestrating a game. I stood there for a long time, the note dangling from my gloved fingers, the silence wrapping around me like smoke. Outside, the city kept breathing. People stumbling home from clubs, lights blinking, red, yellow, green, taxi horns, music. But in here, time had stopped. He knew I'd come. He planned for it. I was no longer hunting a mark. I was hunting a man who wanted to be hunted. I walked out casually, locked the door behind me, tossed the crumpled note into the gutter just outside the building. A subtle signal. Let him find it. Let him know I found it. We were in the middle now. No more setup. No more rehearsal. This wasn't a contract anymore. It was war. The air outside the apartment was cooler now. A faint desert breeze drifted through the streets, carrying with it the distant hum of highway traffic and the dry rustle of palm fronds overhead. I stood by the Chrysler for a moment, letting the city breathe around me, eyes scanning the quiet block. Still no tails, still no movement from the apartment. I opened the driver's door slowly and climbed in, shutting it with a soft click. The interior was dim, the dashboard lights dialed down to their lowest glow. I sat in silence for a long while, letting the tension drain from my limbs as I processed everything. Tag, you're it. Not just a taunt, an escalation. He knew I was coming. Not because he spotted me, but because he planned for me. He wasn't just dancing with death, he was choreographing the whole damn performance. I turned the key and rolled out quietly, taking side streets until I was at least 2 neighborhoods away. Parked under a dying billboard behind an old laundromat, engine off, Glock laid across my thigh. The next update came in at 5:17 a.m. Orgy feed. Subject withdrew large amount of funds 2 days prior. Converted to BTC. Purchases include hidden cameras, signal blockers, prepaid devices, 2 recent motel bookings, currently monitoring. I stared at the glowing screen, my jaw tight. This guy had infrastructure, planning. He wasn't just playing a game, he was writing the rulebook as he went. I tapped a quick reply. Any financial pings in last 24 hours? A beat passed. Then, nothing since burner purchases. All cards dark. Possible cash-only movement. Smart. He knew we were watching. Knew how to vanish from digital sightlines. But not from me. Never from me. By 11 a.m. I tracked one of the active reservations to a cheap, half-rotting Motel 6 on the east edge of town. Parking lot half empty. The kind of place where the clerk asks 0 questions and changes the sheets every 5th guest. I didn't go in right away. I circled the block once. Then again. Then parked behind a shuttered pawn shop 2 lots over. I watched the motel lobby through a cracked pair of long-range binocs. Nothing obvious. No familiar faces. No sign of him. After 15 minutes, I slid out of the car and walked the final block on foot, hat low, posture neutral, hands loose. The clerk behind the desk was overweight, mid-50s, distracted by a small static-covered TV playing The Price is Right reruns. He looked up, disinterested. I pulled out a small folded bill and placed it gently on the counter. "I had an appointment with a visitor here," I said quietly. "Room 18. He hesitated, brow wrinkling. Then, money being money, he turned and rummaged below the desk. Came up with a manila envelope, unsealed. I took it without a word and walked back to the Chrysler, eyes scanning constantly. Back behind the wheel, I tore the flap open. Inside, a single folded note, black Sharpie. Thick strokes. "Try again." I exhaled through my nose. No threats, no bravado, just another breadcrumb. A flick of the middle finger disguised as a scavenger hunt clue. He wanted me frustrated. He wanted me chasing. Knowing the other motel was a trap as well, I went anyway. Same happened there. An envelope with the text, "So close yet so far." "This guy's something special, isn't he?" I mumbled to myself while some kids on bikes were playing around my car. They rushed off fast as I approached. I went in. I leaned back, tapping my fingers against the steering wheel. That's when I felt it. A low vibration. Faint, repeating, barely noticeable beneath the chassis. I froze, leaned down, turned the bug scanner on and slid it under the seat. Confirmed. Magnetized GPS tracker, likely stuck under the rear bumper. Amateur move, unless it wasn't him, unless he had help. I didn't remove it. Instead, I smiled. Let's see where this goes. I drove slowly, casually across town. Midday sun turned the city into a mirage, heat lines rippling off blacktop, drivers impatient, tempers short. The perfect background noise for a little counter-surveillance. I picked a spot 10 miles out, a small Mexican restaurant on the edge of a worn-out shopping plaza. No cameras, no cars. Just a few drunk sipping Modelos under faded patio umbrellas. I parked behind the building, stepped out and retrieved a small envelope from my glove box. Inside it I placed the tracker and a note. "Tag, now you're it." Then I walked it up front and taped it carefully to the side of a concrete support pillar just outside the entrance. Waist height. Easy to spot, but only if you were looking. I retreated to a vantage point across the street behind a half-collapsed fence, hidden behind a dumpster that reeked of ammonia and spilled salsa, and I waited. It took him about 30 minutes to show. Older sedan. Rental, probably. He pulled in fast, killed the engine, door already half open before the tires stopped rolling. He moved like someone expecting an ambush, tight, deliberate, scanning. I watched him spot the envelope. He slowed, stepped forward, ripped it from the pillar, stared at the words, and just for a moment I saw it. That shock in his face, the realization that he got outplayed, a face of panic and fear. That's when I squeezed the trigger. Silenced round cracked across the distance, whispering death as it struck the concrete inches from his head. He started running for his life. No hesitation. Fast. Clever. I moved fast, sweeping around the lot, gun low, body tight against cover. He scrambled, bolting toward the restaurant door. He crashed through the entrance, startled shouts trailing behind him. I followed 10 seconds later, just far enough behind to let the panic build. Inside, chaos. A waitress screamed. Plates hit tile. A man yelled something in Spanish I didn't catch. He shoved past the kitchen staff, disappearing into the back. I ghosted after him, slipping between the fryers and prep tables, weapon hidden beneath my coat. Out the back, into the alley, and there gunfire. His 9mm unsuppressed, loud as hell. I ducked behind a rusted dumpster, concrete splinters biting at my cheek. Damn it. Rookie mistake. He'd just brought the whole city to our doorstep. I melted back into the shadows, breathing steady. Let him run, let him think he won. This was far from over. Back in the car, I pulled the burner and texted HQ. Target armed, confirmed 9mm, response erratic, beginning to suspect deeper motive. He's not just running. A pause, then the reply came in. Confirmed, target's finances drained over 48 hours. We suspect he's not evading. He may have initiated the hit himself. Keep pursuing. You'll get updates as we verify. I read that again. Let the weight of it settle. He hired us, and he knew. A slow smile crept across my face. Well, shit, that changes everything. The Chrysler cruised silently through the low-lit industrial stretch of South Vegas. Traffic had died down. The air was dry, the heat finally bleeding off the pavement after another brutal desert day. But inside the cabin, my mind was on fire. He hired us. The moment the confirmation hit my encrypted channel, everything snapped into place. The out-of-place confidence, the mocking notes, the strategic motel decoys. He knew I was coming, not because he sensed it, not because he got lucky, because he paid for it. I'd never seen anything like it. A man placing a hit on himself, just to feel alive. Just to play a game. A real game. With real death at the finish line. I'd spent my entire life lurking in the shadows of society, erasing names no one would miss. And now here I was, being summoned by a man desperate for meaning. A man who chose me. Part of me was pissed. The other part? Excited. I decided to call him. The next update came in just past 1 p.m. the following day. Org feed flash notice. DMV lookup reported. License plate of assigned vehicle cross-checked from Las Vegas terminal. Individual matching target profile involved. Suspect identified alias Michael S. Verified rental registry matches vehicle on site. I stared at the screen for a long moment. He traced me. Of course he did. He saw the Chrysler, likely jotted the plates down that first night I pulled in during recon. Probably the same night I pulled away just before breaking in. And like any good player, he didn't let it go to waste. He went digging, got lucky, or maybe just knew where to look. That changed things. The car was burned, the alias was compromised. More than that, I was compromised. He knew my name now, or at least the name I operated under for this job. And if he knew that, I decided to call the client himself, have a little chat with him. I grabbed my burner and called the number HQ pulled for me. He didn't answer right away. It rang twice. Then he picked up. I said, "Well, hello there, you left so soon. We didn't even get to play." "Who is this?" he asked, trying to bait me. To which I replied, "Don't worry about who I am. It's yourself you need to worry about." He knew who it was. He just wanted me to say it. I gave him nothing. He laughed nervously. "Oh, Mike, my buddy, it's you. I don't." I cut him off. "How do you know my name?" That did it. Silence. He recovered quickly and said, "You shouldn't interrupt people while they're talking, Mike. It's quite rude." Then he leaned in again, voice playful. "As I was saying, I don't think I need to worry about myself too much. I'm it now, though. So, I'll be seeing you soon." Then I whispered into the line, just before hanging up. "You'll be seeing me sooner than you think." I killed the call. I let the silence linger, the line still warm in my hand, his words buzzing like static between my ears. So he was it now. I stared out the windshield. City lights blurred into motionless shapes. The game had flipped. He thought he had the high ground. That was adorable. I tossed the burner onto the passenger seat. Then I sat back and closed my eyes just for a second. He was learning, faster than most. But he'd made a mistake. A big one. He gave me his voice. He let me hear the rhythm in his breathing, the hesitation in his pauses, the arrogance in his phrasing. Those were tells. They told me more than he realized. More importantly, he confirmed something that hadn't yet been certain. He was enjoying this. He was thriving in this. That made him dangerous. But it also made him predictable. Because underneath all that confidence, he wanted to be found. He wanted to be matched. And I intended to give him exactly that. 3 days passed. No signals, no movement, no new transactions, just static. The client had vanished. No card swipes, no burner pings, no GPS hits. I moved from hotel to hotel every 12 hours, changing looks, flushing burner phones twice a day. I wasn't paranoid, I was alive. And in this game, that was a shrinking luxury. Every now and then HQ would feed me something small. Scraps, not data. No confirmed sightings, no new withdrawals, dormant behavior possibly strategic. Their language was clinical, robotic. But I knew better. He was waiting, letting the pressure build, making me wonder, making me sweat. I hated that. And then it came. The alert hit at 6:37 p.m. on the 4th day. A huge cash withdrawal from a Bank of America ATM on the northwest fringe of the city. No card activity in days, then suddenly a beacon in the dark. It wasn't sloppy, it was intentional. He wanted me to see it. I could practically hear him whispering across the desert, "Come and get me." I loaded up without hesitation. Gear was light for this trip. Suppressor? Check. Glock 19 with 2 mags? Check. Bug detector, burner, knife, quick patch medical kit? All in the bag. And this time I wasn't just cautious. I was primed. I rerouted twice en route to the ATM, cut down a back alley, drove through an empty car wash, parked 3 blocks away, walked the last quarter mile on foot. And there it was, the bank. Dimly lit, ATM glowing under a pair of flickering lights. Strip mall across the street long since dead. No traffic, no pedestrians. Perfect, too perfect. I didn't approach immediately. I circled the block once, took my time. No movement, no shadows. Still, that itch was back, the one in the spine. The one that says, something isn't right. But I went anyway. I parked the Chrysler behind a half-abandoned taco stand, slid out of the driver's seat slowly, checked the mag, silencer already screwed on. I moved low, tight, fast, crossed the street in the dark, hugging the shadows, closed in on the ATM, pulled the special gadget to drain his bank account even further, inserted it into the ATM machine, but then I saw a white flash near the window, a reflection of something. I turned to check it out and... It wasn't a loud boom, not cinematic, not fiery. It was concussive, like being kicked in the chest by a horse wearing a battering ram. Pain bloomed across my ribs. I stumbled backward, slamming against the ATM casing, knocking it sideways. My ears were ringing. My vision pulsed red. The vest had caught the worst of it, but not all. I hit the ground hard, breath torn from my lungs like a sheet of paper ripped in one savage tear. Then came the second shot. Crack. Concrete sprayed next to my leg. Sniper. High ground. My brain lit up in full instinct mode. Move. I crawled, rolled, staggered toward the Chrysler, vision swimming, hands numb. Another shot closer. Rear tire exploded in a cloud of shredded rubber. Then another, left tire. Then another, until all the tires were hit. The car was dead. I had maybe 5 seconds before he had my position locked. I reached under the dash and flipped the override. Small red switch, hidden beneath the steering column, a kill measure. I'd rigged the Chrysler 300 days ago, wired it with a directional fire trap, rigged along the fuel line and backseat propane cache. Overkill, sure, but in my line of work, you don't prep for average. You prep for worst case. This was it. I dove into the passenger seat and jammed the gear into reverse. Tires screeched against torn rims, sparks lighting up the dark like a welding torch. I turned the wheel hard, aimed the Chrysler at the ridge where the shot came from, and I floored it. The car tore across the parking lot, glass rattling, shocks screaming, tires grinding down to nothing. At about 60 yards out, I bailed, tucked my shoulder, rolled hard into the ditch beside a busted irrigation line. As I hit the dirt, the explosion shook the earth. A bloom of orange flame lit up the Nevada night sky like a second sunrise. You could have seen it from a mile away. Flames engulfed the Chrysler in seconds, propane tanks erupting like angry thunder, tires, fuel. The entire chassis turned into a blast furnace. And in that instant, I vanished. I didn't stop moving for 3 hours. I crawled through a culvert, hopped fences, changed clothes in the shadows of a scrapyard, bled into a pay-by-the-hour motel on the east side, name fake, face hooded, hands trembling. Once I was inside, I collapsed into the shower fully clothed. Water hit the vest and poured down red. I peeled it off slowly, bruised ribs, torn flesh, no breaks. Lucky, I laughed. One of those short, bitter laughs. Then I sat on the floor and let the water run. I spent most of the next day in pain. Real, tangible, bone-deep pain. The kind that doesn't scream, it just whispers with every breath. You're not invincible. My ribs were a mess, deep purple, bruised and tight. Breathing was shallow. My right side felt like it had been beaten with a crowbar. Maybe it had, in a way. That blast from the ATM, yeah, the vest caught it. But vests don't stop kinetic trauma. They just keep it from being fatal. I patched what I could. A needle, thread, painkillers and disinfectant from the med kit. A handheld mirror propped on the dresser. Every stitch hurt like a confession. Every movement felt like penance. By nightfall, I could finally stand without shaking. And that's when it happened. A knock. Soft. Barely there, I froze. I hadn't ordered food. I hadn't told the front desk my real name. I hadn't checked in under the same identity I used on the car. And still, someone had found me. I grabbed the Glock from beneath the pillow and flattened myself against the wall, just out of view of the peephole. I heard an envelope being slipped under the door. I waited. Nothing. No voice. No second knock. just silence. I waited 30 full seconds before moving, pressed my eye to the peephole, empty hallway, and there it was, on the floor, a manila envelope. My name, Mike, scrawled across the front in thick black Sharpie. No address, no return, just 3 things inside. 1, a piece of folded paper with another handwritten note. 2, a GPS coordinate. 3, a familiar piece of tech, my ATM hacking device, the one I dropped during the ambush. I read the note first. Simple, elegant, cruel. Red Rock Canyon. 6 p.m. 2 days from now. Take scenic loop doctor to White Rock Mountain, RD. Turn right. Keep driving until the pavement ends. You'll see an old car parked off the road. I'll be waiting. You're it. That bastard smiley face. The same smirk I saw in his voice. The same arrogance in his tone during the call. Now scribbled on paper like a goddamn autograph. He knew where I was sleeping. He returned my stolen gear. And now he was inviting me to the finale. It was bold. It was stupid. And I respected the hell out of it. He wasn't afraid of me anymore. He was challenging me. This wasn't just tag. This was duel. I burned the envelope, the note, everything but the GPS chip. Then I packed. Everything. 1 backpack, 1 rifle case, 1 handgun. I checked out of the motel an hour later, vanishing into the Vegas night with a limp in my step and fire in my lungs. The game wasn't over. But now it had a time. And a place. And I'd be damned if I didn't meet him there. Red Rock Canyon. The place tourists came to breathe. This time, it was where I'd be choking on blood. I left Vegas at around 3 p.m., taking my time. He said 6. I'd arrive at 5:30. Not early, not late, just punctual enough to remind him I respected the rules of the game, but not enough to walk into anything stupid. The RAV4 hummed along the 2-lane blacktop, beige and boring, blending perfectly into desert anonymity. I didn't touch the AC. Let the heat keep me alert. The sun pressed down through the windshield like a judgment. As I drove, I reviewed the note again in my mind. Red Rock Canyon, 6 p.m., 2 days from now. Take scenic loop doctor to White Rock Mountain, RD. Turn right. Keep driving until the pavement ends. You'll see an old car parked off the road. I'll be waiting. You're it. No threats, no warnings, just a smiley face and coordinates. God, I hated that smiley face. I reached the turnoff exactly as described. Scenic loop drive to White Rock Mountain Road. The pavement started cracking like dry skin. Eventually, it stopped completely. I kept going. Dust kicked up behind the RAV4 in long tan plumes. Joshua trees clawed at the horizon, the kind of place where echoes came to die. Then just ahead, an old sedan. Faded green, doors closed, windows up, empty. Or at least, that's what it wanted to look like. I stopped the RAV4 100 yards out, engine off, silence. Even the wind held its breath. I stepped out slowly, AR-15 across my chest, sling tight, Glock holstered but hot, armor vest secured, no dangling straps, just a professional man in a professional suit, stepping into a gunfight. I moved forward, 1 step at a time, boots crunching on sand, eyes scanning the boulders, the high cliffs, the dry brush. And the silence was wrong. Not peaceful, not quiet. It was the kind of silence that only happens when someone's waiting for you to make the first mistake. At 50 yards, I dropped to 1 knee, raised the rifle, scoped in. Nothing moved. The sedan was still just a car, but where the hell was he? I swept the ridgeline to the west, too exposed, turned left, south edge. Nothing. Then east. There, a glint, just for a second, like sunlight bouncing off a lens. I pivoted, but too late. He missed his first shot. I immediately sought cover near a boulder, still trying to figure out where he was shooting from. It seemed like he was relocating. I carefully scanned the area where the shot came from. And then, just when I noticed another glint, the sound didn't register, but the pain did. Immediate. Blinding. My right leg gave out beneath me, and I dropped hard into the dirt, biting back a scream. The shot had torn through the muscle just below the knee. Clean exit. Blood sprayed in a hot arc onto the desert floor. My rifle tumbled from my grip, landing out of reach. I crawled, fast. Pulled myself behind the RAV4 just as the second shot cracked overhead. This wasn't a lucky hit. He'd been there for hours, maybe since the night before. He wasn't scouting anymore. He was waiting. I was the one caught in the open. I was the one being stalked. I gritted my teeth and yanked open the RAV4's back door. Inside, my secondary med kit. Tourniquet, painkillers, quick clot. But I wasn't going to pass out. Not here. Not yet. A crunch in the gravel, footsteps, slow, confident. I heard him before I saw him. He wasn't hiding anymore. He had the high ground, the angles, the timing, everything. And then a voice, calm, measured, amused. "You okay down there, Mike?" And goddammit, he was smiling. His boots crunched softly against the sand as he approached, slow, steady. He didn't need to rush. He had all the time in the world now. I was down, bleeding out. A growing red smear trailed from my thigh, soaking the waistband of my pants, drying in thick, sticky patches. One leg below the knee, gone. Just muscle shrapnel and bone fragments now. I tried to crawl once. Got maybe 2 feet before the pain stopped being pain and just became white. Now I just sat there, propped up against the side of the RAV4, staring down the setting sun like it owed me an apology. And then I saw him. The silhouette cutting through the evening haze. He didn't walk like a victor. He walked like someone coming to say goodbye. He kept the rifle slung behind him, didn't aim it, didn't need to. He stopped 5 feet away, looked down at me, and just like I suspected, he was smiling. But it wasn't arrogant. Not anymore. It was something quieter, calmer. He said nothing for a moment, just let the silence stretch between us like old friends sitting on a porch. Then finally, "You're a tough motherfucker, Mike." I managed a breath that tasted like blood and dirt and regret. Choked out a sound that was half a cough, half a laugh. Takes one to know one. He knelt beside me, didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Then without another word, he dug out a tourniquet and tightened mine. Checked the wrap. Good technique, clean, military maybe. And then, before I could say a word, he stabbed an EpiPen into my thigh. "Shit," I gasped, jerking as the adrenaline slammed into my system like fire through my veins. "You want me awake for this?" "No," he said quietly. "I want you here for it." His eyes weren't cruel, just tired. He took my Glock from my hip, ejected the mag, checked the chamber, slid it back in, gave it a tap, then placed it gently on the ground between us, not pointing at me, just waiting. He then dragged me over to my car and put me in the front seat. I assume so that he could watch me. We started driving for a while, my vision blurry. No clue where we were going, but I didn't care at all. I was just accepting whatever was coming next. He then grabbed a bottle of Jack Daniels and asked me if I wanted a last drink. I sure made use of the opportunity and started chugging the bottle like a madman. We got up a little ways on the back highway to Mount Charleston, and eventually got to a good straightaway with a sharp turn at the end, with nothing but a little guardrail between the road and about a 1,300 feet drop. He found a good-sized rock on the side of the road and started to pour gas all over the inside of the vehicle. All I did was close my eyes and wait. When he was done and about to launch it, he came up to the door and asked me a simple question. "You want it fast and clean," he asked, "or long and horrible?" I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I saw the man behind the madness. Not a kid, not a psycho, just a soul trying desperately to feel something real, just like I had been, once. I reached up slowly, fingers trembling, and tapped the barrel. "Fast," I said, "but let me finish this Jack first." He nodded, and for one blissful minute, there was peace. The whiskey burned, but not as much as the memories, of the jobs, of the faces, of the nights sleeping under bridges and waking to the sound of rats chewing through hope. I drank until my hands stopped shaking, then held the bottle up in a trembling toast and said, "I definitely don't want to die just yet, but you sure set up one hell of a fucking game for yourself." He smiled at that, the real kind, not the mocking one, the one men give each other when they finally understand. I finished the bottle, dropped it in the dust and said, "Do it. Make it quick and clean, and light this fucking thing and get the fuck out of the area." He stood, took the Glock in both hands, racked it clean, stared down at me, his jaw clenched. He stepped forward. No hate, no fear, just two men at the end of a line they never asked to be on. He took one slow breath. The shot was perfect. Clean, right temple, no pain, just light, then nothing. I was a man who didn't get picked until the day someone chose me for a game I was never meant to win. And that was enough.